Good evening, everyone. Tonight, you know what we're going to be talking about. That's right, Section 34. Now, Section 34 has been gripping the nation for the past few weeks, and indeed it is a topic that needs to be highlighted, and you would see why I chose to do it at this point in time. Now, a lot has been said about Section 34, including the Prime Minister coming out and making a statement on Section 34. However, when I listened to the speech of the Honorable Prime Minister, I wondered, does the Prime Minister think that we are all stupid, thoughtless, or just simply idiots? Not me. Alright, the Prime Minister seems to have this notion that everybody in Trinidad and Tobago will just hear what she says and just say, hey, okay, cool, and rubber stamp it. And no, not with Section 34. This will not stand, it will not fly. And indeed, I'm speaking out on Section 34 tonight. Alright? Section 34. What is Section 34? Simply put, because I don't want to make it too much high-class words and that kind of stuff, right? Section 34, simply put, is an amnesty. Alright? Whereas people who've had their matters before the courts for a lengthy period of time can apply to the courts under Section 34 and have their cases thrown out, dismissed. So in other words, they can walk free under Section 34. We're not talking about Section 1, 2, 3, Section 36, 40, Section 35 is the actual law at that time, before it was repealed, that would allow persons who have been before the courts for a lengthy period of time to apply to have their cases dismissed. As I say that, there were few people apparently who knew about this even before us. And when this was proclaimed, they ran to the courts to have their cases dismissed. I don't know how they knew about it before the population knew about it, but they knew. So tonight, we are going to discuss Section 34. Now, what prompted me to do this video was simply this, because I saw the marches and I am proud of Trinidad and Tobago for standing up to this nonsense. I saw the marches, I saw the rallies and so on, but what prompted me to discuss Section 34 tonight is when I saw this on every single local television station tonight. You see why it's in here? You have 5 UNC men. Don't worry about Ashwood Jack, we come to he just now, right? 5 UNC men here on national TV, every single station tonight, talking about what the PNM did. For over an hour, these people, this government, paid every station to broadcast this nonsense. That's right, nonsense. They are calling this a debate. A debate? A debate is where you have more than one group, individual, who would come together, and what they would do is air their views, and you have a nice lively debate. What you have here is a bunch of bushmen, you understand, who come to one place to air their views on one political party, and that is it. Nobody to oppose them, nobody to say otherwise. They're just there to say things about the PNM. Let me say in general about this video that the PNM is not in power. Simply, I don't care how long they took tonight. They could have taken an hour, and I think it was an hour and 20 minutes, hour and 30 minutes talking about the PNM. Let me say this, and this will cover their whole hour and something. The PNM is not in power. You are in power. You could have used that hour and something to talk about what you've done over the 2 years and what you're going to do over the next couple of years. You didn't do that. I don't want to hear about Calder Hart and whoever, this one and that one. They're out. They're not here. And whatever matters are before the courts with them, it is proceeding. So stop calling Calder Hart name, stop calling Patrick Manning name, stop calling Kid Rowley name for things that you know don't have any relevance now, and deal with the solutions now. Everything is Calder Hart. I mean, if I have a baby who is 2 months old, she gonna know Calder Hart. We are tired of hearing about what the PNM did. We have done something about it. We put you there. So what happened? So for the next 3 years, you're going to be talking about PNM still? Anyway, let me not go into that. Let's continue dealing with Section 34. Section 34 was proclaimed, all right? So it was made law, for those who are not too sure, it was made law on Independence Night. I am not sure why it was done in such, I would say, secrecy. Simply because on Independence Night, we were celebrating our 50th year as an independent country. So most people will be out celebrating and so on. So I don't know if they thought that the country would not take note, we wouldn't take stock. The spotlight wasn't shining on the President's proclamation on Section 34. But it was done on a night where I would say the country may not have been looking. The entire country may not have been looking, but I thank those who were looking, and they definitely shone the spotlight on this secret proclamation. I am in no way going to blame the President of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago for the proclamation, as he does so on the advice of the Prime Minister. The President didn't just wake up one morning and say, hey, let's just take Section 34, let's just proclaim it, and hey, we're going to set about 100 people free. No, he didn't. The proclamation came by way of the Prime Minister advising the President, so he is no way liable in that regard. The Prime Minister and the Cabinet is responsible. The opposition is not, and I repeat this so they hear me well, the opposition is not responsible for the proclamation. The independent senators are not responsible for the proclamation of any law in Trinidad and Tobago. It is the Prime Minister and her Cabinet that is responsible. So all this blame about the PNM supported and the PNM did this, I will come to that just now, but it is not the PNM, it is not the opposition, it is not the Parliament as a whole, but it is the Cabinet and the Prime Minister who is responsible for that proclamation that went to the President, because he did it on the advice of the Prime Minister. So let me just clear that up one time. Now let me deal with this whole thing about collective responsibility in terms of what the Attorney General is saying, that all parliamentarians should share the blame for Section 34. The Attorney General is talking nonsense. Simple. He is talking nonsense. The independent benches, as well as the opposition, agreed to Section 34. Yes, they did. They agreed to Section 34 based on conditions. Hear me well? So what they are saying is simple. We will agree to this, but you must do this first. And if you give us the assurance that you're going to do this first, then we will give you the agreement now. We will tell you, yes, no problem. Because once we have your word that you're going to do something, we have no worries. You're in Parliament, you're a member, you're an honorable member. So the opposition and the independent said yes to Section 34, but based on conditions. The government said, yes, we agree to your conditions, and we will not maybe, or we think we would. The government gave the assurance to the independent and the opposition that they will not proclaim that law, any part, that law, sorry, or any part of it, any part, Section 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, any part, without putting the things that they agreed to in place before the proclamation. So if that is the case, how can you come to us, government? How can the government come to us and tell us, all right, the Attorney General, and tell the country that all parliamentarians must accept the blame? Rubbish, Mr. Attorney General. And if you think I lie, check the Hansard. Check it, it's there, it's written right there. You agreed to conditions, and because you agreed to those conditions, then you got the support of the independent and opposition. So don't make it seem as though you just went into the Parliament, you pass a couple sections, Section 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 34, and the opposition just said yes. The independents just said yes. It didn't work so. So you need to be honest with the public. You need to be honest with the population, and really, come on, be honest. That's what you need to do. The Prime Minister said that after she did her investigations, and let me stress on the word that she said, careful investigation, so she took her time. And while reading out her findings, the Prime Minister said that Herbert Volney was culpable of the crime, and therefore he was fired. And I want to say congratulations, Madam Prime Minister. You did a good thing by firing Herbert Volney. However, you took a nosedive when you didn't fire the Attorney General, let me tell you what. I believe the Attorney General should also be held accountable. The Attorney General, under the Constitution of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, not the United States, not London, not England, but Trinidad and Tobago, he is the one that advises Cabinet on legal matters. Anything pertaining to law in Trinidad and Tobago, he is responsible. Now, I heard him say that he's not in the criminal aspect of law. However, let me say this. We have technocrats. We have people who are there to assist the Attorney General. He is responsible under the Constitution. The Constitution never said that the Justice Minister or anybody else is responsible. It is the Attorney General. That is why the Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago even goes a step further by insisting that the Attorney General must, not should be, he must be at the cabinet meetings. He must. Because he is the person ultimately in the end responsible for advising the cabinet on legal matters. Now the Prime Minister said that the Attorney General was out of the country between the 4th, he was out of the country up to the 3rd or the 4th of August. Yes, the 3rd or the 4th of August. Let me say this, the cabinet note is dated the 6th of August. I will leave that up to you to decide what is right and what is wrong. So up to the 3rd or the 4th, he was out of the country. If he was out of the country up to the 3rd or 4th, fine, I have no problem with that. But if the cabinet note is dated the 6th of August, then my simple question is, who was the Attorney General of Trinidad and Tobago on the 6th of August 2012? Who? Alright. Then we have Then we have Jack Warner. Let me say that Jack Warner ought not to be a minister in government. From day one, he has violated the trust enshrined in certain things, not only in the Constitution, but in certain things that parliamentarians ought to uphold as a matter of standard. For example, Jack Warner held on to FIFA, and I'm not going to go into FIFA. I'm just simply going to say that one of the things that ministers do when they enter into parliament is not hold on to any personal business, because that could provide or prove to be a form of what we say a conflict of interest. He held on to it, and we all know what happened, and so on. Now I think the latest thing is that he's trying to buy the TNT mirror and so on. There is a line that ministers ought not to cross. There is a line. Jack Warner crossed it on many occasions, his latest, however, being an attack on the office of the President. The President of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, under the Constitution, is not bound to answer to any court, nor is he bound to answer to any parliamentarian in terms of how he operates. In fact, his speeches don't have to go to the Prime Minister for approval. The President can read his own speeches. He can have his own people do it, because his office is independent to the cabinet and the government of Trinidad and Tobago. So Jack Warner, at some point, I hope the Prime Minister takes some type of action to remind her ministers of the respect that they must have for the separation of powers.